Hi there. A lot of people ask me how you should go about writing an essay. And what this video is going to do in as short a time as possible is give you some hints on how to structure an essay. Because I think if you can logically work out what every element of your essay should be doing, it becomes much easier to write. Now, one of the key mistakes people make when they're writing an essay is just throw all the information, all their knowledge at the essay. And now, don't get me wrong, knowing stuff on a topic is still the most important thing in an essay. But sometimes what you can do is just throwing stuff at the essay tears you away from the structure. So this is what this video is going to try and do about how you can organise your information. It's going to try and show how you structure the essay towards answering a question. And as such, there are, let's be honest with you, lots of different types of essay question, but those essays which have a statement which you're asked to agree or disagree with, or a specific question. Now, this can be in any field. It could be in my subject, politics, or it could be in history, English literature, all manner of things where you have a statement which you're asked to agree with or a specific question. And what I'm going to do in this essay, to try and make it as multidisciplinary as possible, that is to say, doesn't really matter what your essay's on, to show how this structure works is I'm going to use the example of cats versus dogs. Imagine you had the question, are cats better than dogs? How would you structure an essay to answer that question? That's what we're going to try and do now. So let's take the example, cats are better than dogs. Discuss. Or are cats better than dogs? Now, the first thing, I'm going to come back to the introduction. I'm going to say something really, really important about how you write the introduction, but I'm going to leave that to the end. I'm sorry about that, but there's a reason for doing that. So what I want you to see is that an essay such as cats are better than dogs, discuss, or are cats better than dogs, is comprised of 5 sections. No, I'm saying 5 sections, not 5 paragraphs. Each section you can break it up into paragraphs as you see fit, but it's logically comprised into 5 sections. There's an introduction at the beginning, which I'm going to talk about later, and at the end there's a conclusion, and I'm going to talk about the conclusion at the same time as the introduction. So that leaves us with 3 sections, right? And I'm going to suggest is, bearing in mind the question, are cats better than dogs, or dogs are better than, or cats are better than dogs, discuss. Right. The first section should be why cats are better than dogs. The second section is why dogs are better than cats, or to put it another way, how it can be argued that dogs are better than cats and cats are better than dogs. And then there's a third section when you argue which of these arguments is more plausible and why. Some people say that that's your opinion, but I don't want you to just write what your opinion is. I want you to show which of the arguments is more plausible and why, which is, of course, making your views known on the topic. But I want to move away from it just being, I think this, I think that, I think the other. You need to interact with the other. So bearing in mind we're leaving the introduction discussion until later, the first section is why cats can be said to be better than dogs. Now here, I'm not incredibly fond of animals, so you will probably have more details of here. But if you were going to argue that cats are better than dogs, you might say that they're more independent. You might say that they don't require as much walking. You might want to say that they're, you don't have to go out and walk them, or so on and so forth. So you can make that list of things. So you're starting building a case that cats are better than dogs. Now let us suppose that there is a book by Smith called Cats Are Fantastic. You will bring in that literature and show me what Smith says about cats. So this first section is all about why the statement made in the question, that is to say that cats are better than dogs, could be said to be true. So that's what you do in this section. And bearing in mind, at this point, it doesn't matter whether you vehemently disagree with that statement or not. You make that case because you're going to balance it and have your opportunity to have your say. Section 2 is the opposite of section 1. Here, because you've already made the case that cats are better than dogs, so in section 2, you're going to make the case that dogs are better than cats. So here, again, to list a set of attributes, maybe they're more loyal. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings if you're a cat person here. We're outlining the points. You can make the case that you can get some exercise with them. That is to say, taking them out walking. You can make the case that they're more affectionate. I don't know. You list those things. Then suppose there was a book by Jones called The Joy of Dog Ownership. And here you bring in those arguments. As Jones says in his 2015 book, The Joy of Dog Ownership, the best reason for owning a dog is X, Y, and Z. So after section 1 and section 2, and these should be big sections, you've balanced the case. Now, can you see how this would work with any other question? Let's say, for example, you were doing the essay question, is Hobbes accurate when he says that life in a state of nature would be nasty, brutish and short? You would firstly build a case to show why Hobbes thought that life in the state of nature was nasty, brutish and short, and outline the case. You then might counter it with another argument. For example, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who argues that by nature we're naturally good because we live by the maxims of pity and amour de soi. So you could do that, but it could work in anything else as well. Let's, for argument's sake, say that you were doing a question that was James VI a good king? You might list his achievements in the first section and then things which were more problematic in the second section. It could work in anything. It could be, suppose you were writing an essay on English literature, about a particular topic. If the statement you've argued why the statement suggested in the question could be said to be true, and then you've argued the opposite. So now we move on to the third section, and I would say that the third section is really important because it's here that you turn a descriptive essay into a really analytical essay. Because bearing in mind, you've made the case that cats are better than dogs and dogs are better than cats. In the section 3, you are going to judge those two arguments and come up with your answer. Now here, I want us to move away from thinking that this is just your opinion. Because in one sense, it obviously is your opinion, right? But it doesn't go very far to just say, I think that cats are better than dogs. What you want to do instead is say which of these two accounts seem more plausible and why. Right? So what you want to do is say why you think that either cats are better than dogs or dogs are better than cats, and give your grounds for making that opinion. Let's, for one sake, say, suppose you were an outdoors type, you like going outside and you like walking and you like the exercise. So if that's the case, right, you might want to say that dogs are better than cats, right? Because your judgment of evaluation is that you're looking for an animal that gets you out of the house, gets you to meet other people, and so on and so forth. And dogs are more likely to do that, I suspect, than cats. What you could say, however, is, it depends upon what you are looking for in a pet. That cats are not necessarily better than dogs, or dogs are not necessarily better than cats. It depends upon what you are after in a pet. Third section is your analysis, and that's the important bit because that's really you answering the question. Because technically speaking, in sections 1 and 2, you haven't actually answered the question. What you've done is shown why certain arguments might be the case. And it's third when you really make to get the point. Now, I've talked about sections 1, 2 and 3, but at the beginning of the video, I said I was going to come back to the point around about the introduction. Now, this is the thing, and I apologise for leaving it, but there's a specific reason for doing this. Often when you're writing an essay, it might not be a bad thing to leave writing the introduction later on, right? If I've seen this once, I've seen it 1,000 times. Introductions can ramble, but there is a key thing which you should look to do in an introduction, and that's tell the reader what is going to happen in the rest of the essay. Right. Now, remember this mantra, right? This is the first sentence of your essay. This essay will argue that, right? Now, the reason being that is if you can answer the question in the introduction and show the reader how you're going to answer that question, the conclusion actually is quite similar to the introduction. What you could do in a conclusion is just do sort of what was in the introduction, but in the past tense. So you say what you're going to do, do it, and then say what you've just done. So in this essay, we've seen that cats nor dogs are intrinsically better than one another, but rather it depends upon what you want from a pet. And we've seen this by the following discussions. Sometimes you want, in the conclusion, people like to pull threads together for the argument. What you should never do in an essay, and again, remember this mantra, is never put anything in a conclusion which you haven't already talked about in the main body of the text. So there it is. That's how you go about structuring an essay. And I say this would work with any question which is kind of statement or question based. You say what you do it, you say what you've just done. You have an introduction, you have section 1 then puts the case for the statement made in the question or the dominant piece of information in the question. Then you take the other side of that to show that the opposite can be true. So you've achieved balance. Then you analyse which of these cases are more plausible and why. And then you conclude by bringing it all together. Now that's a really nice structured essay. And if you've done the reading, if you've learnt about your topic and so on and so forth, that's the best way to present your information rather than just throwing knowledge at the page, which sometimes leads to a slightly jumbled essay title or essay question. There it is. I hope that's useful to you. If it is, please like and subscribe.